All I need is one mic. Spread my voice to the whole world. Baby.
Yes. Welcome to another episode of NR International.
You did.
You now rocking with the best Philly's finest, Mr. Make It Rain, Maul, Rainy, and
Flawless Flaw Entertainment. Peace, love.
in the building. Most definitely, we're rocking for all of the massive, everyone who's out there. You know what I'm saying, the entire world, North Philly to the rest of the world. We're broadcasting live.
How y'all doing? How y'all feeling today?
Today we got a very special guest. And when I mean special, I mean our esteemed guest of honor has been putting his footwork in. I salute
Definitely.
the people who put their work in, you know what I'm saying, in regards to changing what's going on around them little by little. And he's transcended past just our particular neighborhood blocks and has gone viral on many occasions, has gone throughout the entire internet where, I mean, you have to look at a lot of his different videos and you have to share. And the person who I'm referring
You
to,
gotta pay homage, when
homage.
somebody does more than just talking, you know?
Exactly.
And put the footwork in.
soldiers.
With no further ado, you know what I'm saying?
I want to present to y'all, introduce to y'all, you know, to our
Very
audience.
Special guest.
We have in the building Mr. Brandon Chase Thing, aka B McFly.
I appreciate y'all, man. Honored by the words, man.
Of course. Hey, look, we gotta honor ours while we here.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
right.
Like a lot of times, this is the first month, the first episode of the month of Black History.
Oh man,
Indeed
and that's even more of an honor. I know we celebrate Black History Month, Black History every month, but I get it and I love it, man. So it's an honor.
We gotta look at it like this. Each one of us that's hearing the sound of my voice, and us included, we are Black History.
Right.
And we are the continuation of it right now.
Right.
Someone 50 years from now is going to look at our deeds, that's going to look at our works, and look at what work we've put in, and they're going to be honored to say, either I knew those people, or I'm proud to read about those people.
Absolutely.
So we're the continuation of a legacy that's continuing on
That's
from the
what it's
beginning
all
of time.
about. That's what it's all about, man. So what's going on?
Hey, you, we see you working. We've been listening to the last EP that you had, right? We've listened to the mental slave versus the physical slave,
Yeah.
right? We listened to the aggressive black man,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We've listened to which one? Afraid of Success,
Right.
right?
The entire thing. I ain't gonna hold you. We hit every track. We did.
I appreciate it, man.
And it reminded me of something that my grandfather used to do, right? Now, my grandfather is considered as a national hero based off of, he used to speak about the injustices that used to go on my island, on my father's island.
Okay.
So, who I'm speaking about is Mauricio Alfredo Sixto. He was a person who, they just recently made cartoons in regards to his works, taking his voice and actually showing through cartoons his speech and what he was referring to, and animated it.
Shout out.
And so I actually could picture everything that you're saying. I could see somebody, an animator, taking your words
Right.
and doing the same thing with that.
Right.
And that's something great that I'm able to be able to, you know, sit next to somebody who's doing that now. You know what I'm saying?
You know, it's an honor because when I came up with this called with the EP called B McFly Self Inventory, I had to think about, you know, everything that's going on in our community, and you know what I see, and I just wanted to get straight to the point. And you know, the aggressive black man was something that I was just like, you know, that's most of us. 90, 80, or 90% of us are aggressive. in our own way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I was coming. That's what made me do it. And even with the other tracks, man, just looking at our surroundings and what we got going on, man, it was like, yo, let me put this on track, man, and like let's see what happens.
Yeah,
I feel
you
like
actually captured the thoughts of many people out there. That's how I look at it. Like anytime I'm with y'all speak, I also, in the back of my mind, I think about the naysayers or the people who, will say something to combat what I say.
Right.
And it is like through that entire speech and dialogue, which is, you was having a dialogue with yourself.
And I was having a dialogue with myself, definitely.
Which I thought was dope because we got to see both spectrums from it, both interpretations, and you said some things that sometimes you wouldn't want to hear.
Yeah, that's the hurtful part, right?
Yeah, but it's necessary. I'm saying to take that look in the mirror and to self-identify and then to change or to appropriately go about how you want to execute something.
I had to be accountability. I mean, you can't fake yourself, but sometimes we believe in our own lies to the point where we do fake ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, yo, I know I went left. No, you didn't. You went right, but I thought I went left. And that's the hard part. But once I tell people, once you take accountability of who you are, right, then life becomes easier. Because putting on this front forever is so hard to do,
it's
man.
Exhausting.
Like, that takes a raw talent, man. Like, to be fronting all day. So, yeah, I'm just happy I was able to just, drop, go at myself, go at others, and let's see if we can make something work.
Yeah. I mean, the main point is for everybody who listens to those tracks to, if you ever were one of those people, that you take accountability to yourself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As you look into yourself and you say, all right, well, look, I was that man at one time, but the way how he just came at it and tackled that subject, perhaps I need to calm and chill out with, the way how I'm coming, because I might be a hater.
Right.
Or I might be, I'm saying, just, if I'm not part of the solution, I'm part of the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, the first one, I'm going to be, the first joint that I heard was actually, it wasn't against success. It wasn't the Afraid of Success. It was the one which was mental slave versus the physical slave. And I actually had that conversation all the time with people because it's almost like the same situation of young versus old. Now, the young versus old debate always takes me back to thinking about the Willie Lynch letter.
Of course.
Right? Now, literally, I'm saying, in regards to literature, there's people who say that the Willie Lynch letter may not be authentic in regards to an actual letter that was written by a man named William E. Lynch, I'm saying, of Williamsburg, Virginia / 1712 or whatever. But the strategy actually is true. And that strategy is an ideological warfare that actually started from the time, we can date back even back to the Romans, where it dealt with ideological warfare. How to make a slave. How to turn a people from their natural disposition and then having them become subservient to whatever religion, ideology, system that you decide to put them in place with, and they continue to make themselves and make their next generation repetitive on those ways, that culture and subculture that you implanted in them.
Right.
Old going versus youth, the youth going against the old going against the youth is not a new thing, but that speech of the person who's in jail and the person who's not in jail saying, man, what can I learn from you, man? You're a prisoner. Right. What can I get from you, man? Right. You somebody who was locked up my entire life. Right. And meanwhile, on the other way, it's like, it's saying, young, you never did what I did. Right. You know what I'm saying? I lost more than you ever gained. Like. Right.
Right. And it was a battle. I've seen it. Yeah. I've done it. Yeah. Battle with who's more real. Right? Is it the person that never been in jail but still committed crimes and still, did everything a person that been in jail all their lives did? Or is it the person that's been in jail and they've been in jail for so long that they still just a physical slave, but their mental is free? So I've been on both spectrums, but I've been more so on the mental slave. I was more of a mental slave than a physical slave, because being out here on the streets, right? I did my little dirts or whatever the case may be, but I wasn't taking advantage. I didn't take advantage of what's out here. I never, chasing women, chasing drugs, not taking care of my children. I was a deadbeat father. I was a user. I was a manipulator. That's all the signs of a mental slave. Child support, traffic tickets, all of these things that's not helping you grow at all. I was more on the mental slave side, whereas, I know people they're repeated offenders. They go back and forth to jail, and they read all these books and stuff like that, and then they want to tell you where you wrong at. So how about we stop going against each other, me being a mental slave and you being a physical slave, and how do we change the generational curse?
Right.
How do we both break out of bondage?
How do we both break out of bondage?
It's more like how do we work together opposed to going at heads with each other and colliding?
Yeah, because we're both slaves. And when they say knowledge is power, right? I agree. Knowledge is power.
Once applied.
But right, and that's why I was about to go even further. But applied knowledge is even powerful.
Absolutely.
So you can be reading books all day in jail and learn a lot, but if you can't apply it, then it's like, oh well. And then out here, you free, but you're not taking advantage of your freedom.
Exactly. It's like this. Just looking at those two different types, right? And you saying that they're both slaves, right? They're both pretty much. Let's go back into we in the month of Black history, so most people end up equating, even though I go far deeper than just American-made history, right? But most people equate Black history with the beginning of the plantations and all of that.
Yeah.
So they always said that there were two slaves on a plantation. They said that there was the house slave and the field slave, right? But from doing the history, every time in which I saw an uprising, every time in which I saw any history from Bahia, Brazil, to the uprisings in Jamaica, to those in Hispaniola, those that took place within, there's so many different places where slave uprising and revolts took place throughout history. It always had to be the connection of both, such as the field and the house got together to do what they did. Like, for instance, it was said that Boukman, which is one of the heroes of Haiti, it was said that he was a master. Absolutely. First Black Republic.
Shout out to Haiti.
First Black 1804, January 1st, Independence Day.
There we go. Like, with the war, man, and like free. Free.
And freedom comes with a cost.
Yes, absolutely, man. I didn't mean to break your wisdom, but I just want to give a shout out to them.
Absolutely.
Shout out.
Or as it said in Haiti, Ote Muño, Pawe Muño. Where's your people, huh? There's my people. Salute. When it comes down to what happened with Boukman, for instance, Boukman was a slave who he knew how to take herbs, and he knew what certain things could be placed within, say, teas and foods and things of that nature, which he slowly but surely was killing off all of the plantation masters.
Wow.
And he was teaching the other slaves how to do so. But that revolt didn't take place fully, except that he had to get both sides involved. And his aggression was more towards those who didn't realize they were slaves and those who were first the enemies amongst ourselves first. Those who, they will turn us in before turning them or going at the heads of the plantation owners. So he knew that the problem with black people lied in ourselves first, with those who would be turncoats, those who would be Judases, those who would end up flipping on the movement before the movement gets started. So once he got rid of those, then he was able to utilize both types of slaves. And that's what I'm going to when it comes down to the mental slave versus the physical slave, as you placed it. I heard Dr. Umar, right? Shout out to Dr. Umar Johnson.
Shout out.
Another one of our finest. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
He just mentioned on one of his recent interviews where he said that if I wanted to get into a revolution with somebody, I've noticed that black people like to go towards those who are the most highly educated. But the most highly educated in regards to this system over here in the Americas, the more higher you are in the education system, the more you actually was implanted fear. The more that you was, you're more attached to the system than you are against it.
Right.
So he said, I want to get with Tata and them. I want to get with, Mikey and them from the block.
Right.
I want to get with those who came home from prison and they went through those type of riots and hunger strikes and, able to actually have some type of animosity, aggression towards their captors, opposed from those who's just going to say, well, look, can't we all just get along?
Well, yeah. I mean, like if you look at, it's funny how us as black men, even with the aggressive black man, we tear down our community. We will tear down those who are weaker than us. But when you go to jail, you go to prison, it's a bunch of aggressive black men in there. And nobody's trying to tear down the oppressor. So at this point, I'm just thinking to myself, like, are you really who you say you are? Right? Because I tell people, the system kills us with intelligence. We kill each other with aggression. Who's smarter? If I didn't have to put a gun to you and make you do what I want you to do, I didn't psychologically convince you to do nothing. You did that on your own. You ran around and tore your own community down. Because granted, we have the right to freedom, right? Free will, exactly. Right? So when I look at a person that's extra aggressive and you a real Nick, how real are you? When it's time to go to war for our community, are you really going to go to war? Or are you really a punk inside? And you go after people who are weaker than you and scared of you? It's a difference amongst men. So the physical slave and the mental slave and the aggressive black man goes hand in hand. All of the above. So that's where we at with it, man. Yeah. And like we could go further. I mean, I look at the Black Panthers.
I was about to bring them up real quick.
I respect everybody.
Yes.
I have. It's an honor to be amongst. To hear about the stories of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and the list can go on, right? But the Black Panthers, for me, was like that just touched my heart even more because there wasn't no social media out.
Not at all.
So how did the Black Panthers spread like that with no social media? Right? We have a lot of things that go on in our community like free lunches. I tell my kids, my students, I say, y'all know about the free lunches, right? Yeah, well, the Black Panthers started that. You want to the Black Panthers didn't create stop signs, but they helped. They the ones that brought the stop signs to our community. We had our own doctors, our own lawyers, our own schools. We even govern ourselves.
Absolutely. Exactly.
So, and it's sad to say, but we went to war too.
No doubt.
Like we didn't go to war. We didn't go to war to say we aggressive and we want to be hateful. Mm-hmm. No, we went to war to say y'all going against our morals. Mm-hmm. We chilling. So that helped. That inspired me, along with today's topics and what's going on, inspired me to do that EP as well, man.
Mm-hmm. Now, have you had the opportunity to sit amongst some of those who came from that era, as far as those who are active now?
I didn't. I would love to. I would love to be amongst those type of men.
Then we're gonna try our best to get you introduced to some of them.
Yeah, man, because I'm wondering, first of all, shout out to the founders.
Absolutely.
Shout out to the Huey P, man. I think prison messed him up.
Yeah, it did.
It messed him up, man, because he was a compassionate man.
This is one of the things in which I know about Huey's situation, though. And this is the same thing that goes on. You've been in jail, so you already know. When most people go inside, they hit you with those drugs that you ain't never heard of.
Yeah.
Thorazine up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All type of stuff that you never heard of, and it's meant to turn your brain, your capacity to think.
Right.
And push you. Most of it push you to sleep.
Yeah.
And so his situation was that he became addicted while he was away, and people place the blame of him saying that he become an addict after he came home from prison and not having that same strength. But that's what happens when you become addicted to any type of opioid, any type of drug, or any type of, and instead it changed him. You know what I'm saying? But for those who was around all that time, only those who were there can actually speak on how much drugs were they giving him while he was locked up.
Well, it's funny that you said that because me being addicted to opioids, mm-hmm. I was addicted to opioids. I got shot in 2004. Mm-hmm. It's funny. I graduated college. It was mm-hmm. backwards. Everything that I did was backwards. Mm-hmm. I graduated from college, Lincoln University. Shout out to Lincoln University.
Absolutely.
2004, May 2nd, 2004. Mm-hmm. And I got shot July 4th, 2004. So I never knew anything about opioids. Mm-hmm. I knew about Xannies, and I'm like, man, I'm never taking those. You know what I'm saying? But I never knew anything about Percocets. Nothing. And when I was prescribed the Percocets for the pain, I said, yo, this feeling has to be the best feeling I've ever had in my life. Right?
Numbers you to the world.
Yo, and I'm talking about it's a pain.
It's more than just physical pain. They don't speak about how it's the mental and emotional pain as well. And
Absolutely.
that it puts you in a trance to where as though your mind is just, I would say at ease, but I don't want people to start taking perks, so don't.
No, I get where you're coming from. It's really, once I found out that these Percocets, the opioids, were not just for physical, because it numbed me, it just numbed my whole body, but I thought about everything, my trauma that I was going through. And once I start gravitating to that, not knowing that that's what I'm gravitating to, now the Percocets is helping me with my trauma. It's helping me with the fact that whatever I'm going through with my children, I ain't got to think about that no more. Yeah, whatever I went through with my parents, I ain't got to think about that no more. Me being mentally abused and physically abused, I don't have to think about that no more. Mm-hmm. Now, the drugs helping me be free, but is helping me be free, but on the path to destruction. Mm-hmm. And it turned me into an animal. Mm-hmm. It turned me to being dangerous. It turned me into being a coward too.
You're not yourself.
Yeah, I'm not myself. And certain things that I've done was put my hand on a female. My children, I don't even care about my children no more. I did everything for these opioids except for doing anything with another man.
Priorities.
Like I did everything that I could to get these Percocets, except for doing anything with another man. And I say that not to say to be funny. I say that because when I was in rehab, and I heard the stories of what men did.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, okay, talking to mature minds is one thing. Kids or somebody may take that as a joke. But I'm sitting back like, okay, opioids is not just Percocets. Opioids is the dope too.
Exactly.
So you telling me you sent your girlfriend to do the trick and it ain't work, so you had to go do the trick. That's deep to me. And I was so scared, like, hold up, I ain't never getting back on opioids again.
Iceberg Slim status.
Because I know what I did for Percocets. Ain't no telling what I'm going to do for dope. Because it would take you to another level. This ain't something, it's something that I always wanted to do. No, this is a drug. I didn't watch.
They fail to mention how people become dependent. You know, once you build up a tolerance, so once you go from maybe 10s to 15s to 30s, and then you build a tolerance, your system starts to shut down because you build so much tolerance to it that your body is dependent upon it. And so a lot of people are in critical conditions and do lose their life to this epidemic. And it's so publicized on music and media that kids, they're impressionable. They don't really know better. You know, they're taught no drugs in school, but as soon as they get out to the streets, or as soon as school's over and they go home to the streets, you know, this is their environment. This is what they see. Their family members are the people who's partaking. And kids see a lot. They're sponges. You know, they absorb it all. So I think that it's very imperative, and it's such a commendable service that you're doing with the kids to really reach out, reach back, but talk to them and try to identify their mental and where they are. A lot of adults like to talk at children and say, I know best, I did it, and you did it because you're young, you need to listen to me. No, because it wouldn't have worked for you.
Right.
You know, so it's just like...
And like, I ain't trying that way.
Exactly, to try to understand them and ask questions, though, and to really get inside their life, their mind, their feelings. A lot of people don't even take that into consideration. So then once you are thinking as they're thinking, and you can feel how they feel, then you can connect with them, and they'll understand what you're saying, because at the end of the day, if you're not coming from where they're coming from, you're going to give your message, but you're going to be going. They're still going to be in... Exactly. They're still going to be in the turmoil that they're in, the quicksand that they're in, feeling like they're helpless with no way out. And a lot of those feelings are which turns people to drugs. The feeling of helplessness. The feeling of defeat.
There's no one who understands you.
The loneliness feeling.
Yeah, that when a person feels as though nobody can understand them, then they turn within themselves and they feel as though either they have the best answers for them and nobody can tell them better, or the people, their peers around them, may have a clue to be able to help them and hint them in which way.
Certain people are ashamed. Yeah. I really want for all those who can hear my voice, who feels ashamed. There's nothing to be ashamed of. You know, I feel like society makes us grow up very, very fast. And being children and victims of those who are mentally, physically, sexually abused and have yet to speak out, there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of shame that comes with it. You have to break it. You know, I promise you're not the only one. But in addition to that, there's lessons, there's strength, and there's guidance beyond it. All you have to do is reach out and ask for help. And if you don't know how to ask for help, gravitate to what is conducive for your betterment and your growth. Because if you're not living, you're dying. So if you're not growing, you're dead. If it's not growing, it's dead. So you have to constantly evolve. Constantly put yourself around people who are going to give you light, who's going to shed their light onto you so that you can grow and bloom.
Let's resurrect the people, y'all. And I say my advice, right? And, you know, the advice is for those who accept the advice. You know, you can only give advice to those who accept it. The first thing when talking to a person, especially to a youth, is that you got to put yourself in that time period. Like, some people, don't get me wrong, there's some people who never experienced what that particular youth has gone through.
Mm-hmm.
So that type of compatibility may not work.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who have come from that same type of childhood, that same type of background, that same type of environment, when you put yourself to remembering how you were when you were 13, 14, 15, 16, that helps you be able to communicate even better, because you remember all of those ways that you wasn't trying to hear it. You remember, like, when someone tried to come talk to you and you was like, man, you go and tell me. Like, right now, I'm living my life. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting money. I'm doing what I'm doing. And what you talking about, like, I don't even know your history. I don't know where you came from. I don't even know what your background is. And that's the first thing that goes back to that mental slave versus physical slave type of mentality, which is also a young versus old mentality, which is that Willie Lynch letter.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, we always go back to that. And anybody who's had these conversations, it's almost like you can script it. When you say this, they're gonna come back with this.
Mm-hmm.
When you say this, they're gonna come back with this, because it's only natural. The very first thing for a devil's advocate is, if what's being presented to you is saying this, then in the back of your mind, if you're a devil's advocate type, mind, you're gonna say, all right, well, he said this, but what about this?
Right.
And you're gonna find so many different ways to be rebellious. The most rebellious time periods for a human being is between the ages of between 13 and 25.
They're adolescents.
Well, the
Adolescents.
only thing that I disagree with is if our children had something to look at, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by look at is like this, it's already, I've learned a lot from my mother and watching her do good and bad stuff. And I think transparency is the key, right? I showed, like, you have to embarrass yourself. You have to humiliate yourself in order for a person to heal quietly. So I tell people, right, don't be ashamed of your story. Be ashamed if there's no ending to your story.
Mm-hmm.
If you still got the same stuff going on 10 years from now, it's like, you should be ashamed of that.
Can we pause and rewind?
Yeah.
Can you say that one more time?
One more time.
Because that's about to be the quote of the day. We're going to give you the quote of the day right now. Listen up.
I said, don't be ashamed of your story. Be ashamed if there's no ending to your story, right? Be ashamed if, a lot of people are like, I tell people, you don't have a job and you talking about, oh, my pride tells me I'm not working in McDonald's. Don't you got children? Aren't you tired of living off of another person? Aren't you tired of going from house to house, room to room, couch to couch? No, you're not. And you got to hit your rock bottom. My rock bottom was I wanted to commit suicide. And this was I never wanted to wake up in the morning, because when I woke up in the morning, I knew that, number one, who can I scheme and connive? I got to get to scheming and conniving, right? I got to feel the pains of withdrawal, right? Because now the withdrawal is about to hit me now. So now I got to get my quick fix, like fast. It got to come fast. And I said, you know what if it used to be times where I used to be so high in my mind, I still had a conscience, and I would say, what if I don't wake up in the morning? And when I woke up in the morning, I felt myself doing it again, getting high again. So it was like, when I was sleeping for me was the best time. It was better than getting high afterwards, because I didn't feel no pain. I didn't feel nothing. And I just hope, man, that, when I talk to the children, I use the children in my skits. I created a different way instead of talking, because I teach now. So instead of like, yo, do, the world is filled with awareness now. Now it's research and questions now. Now, before growing up, I had to just listen. I don't know. The kids want to know why. So I just create skits and like I let them gravitate to the skits. It's a better way of just talking. So hopefully, man, so like you said, like you guys say, man, less just directive and more getting an understanding. Getting into the minds of, I talked to a kid today and he was like, yesterday, he was like, I said, did you really, like when you think about jail, do you find yourself sometimes wanting to be in jail just to see what it's like? And he said, yeah. I said, I did too. Because of, now, it's like a kid that's 2 years old. They can't tell you how they opened up the phone, went to YouTube, picked their favorite song and music. They can't tell you that. They can only comprehend that. It's still like with an adult. A lot of adults don't know how to tell you, verbalize. They just know how to comprehend. That's why black people comprehension skills is to the roof, right? So now it's up to me to pull what you thinking and you don't know how to articulate it. Let me pour it out of you. Well, you probably like the one to go to jail because people glorify it. They look good when they come home. They got their families in there. Right, a lot of their family in there. They look good when they come home. They got a glow. Their face is clear. A lot of women gravitate to men that just come home.
They're classified as quote unquote real niggas.
They're real niggas. You understand what I'm saying? Like all of that. And then once you pull that out of them, it's like, well, damn, that's why. So that's why. So I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. Like, you know, for a very long time, upon my coming home, I had the opportunity to work in the juvenile centers.
Okay.
You know, and you know, only because of, you know, I can't be able to disclose which ones at the time period, but you know what I'm saying, you know, I was able to work within the juvenile facilities, be a mentor, and also deal with boot camp work within them. So, you know, I was everything for, you know, for everyone that's watching at the moment, and those who were also some of my youth. You know, you could toss your 100s up.
Shout
because
out.
I used to make sure, like, we had everything. We had everything from Tottenham's. Like, we really bid it to make sure that not only was they just doing their time, I wasn't allowing the time to do them. You know, they was doing time, I wasn't allowing them to be done by the time.
Right, I'm with you.
So the case is that I had a conversation. I would say, how many of you have fathers that's locked up right now? And when I told them, like, most case scenario, they know Mr. Rainey.
Right.
And so, you know what I had them do? When they got in contact with their mothers or whatever, I said, well, if y'all have contact with your pop, ask your pop if you know Mr. Rainey. And you know what? Almost about half of them, or 33% of them, came back saying, yo, Mr. Rainey, my pop said he do know you.
Right.
And that was the beginning of the rapport, because now they like, yo, my pop hasn't been there for most of my life, and he know my pop. Right. And so my pop vouches for him, then I know that, you know what I'm saying, he's a real one. Right. Now the thing is, when you talk about real ones, you know what I'm saying, or real niggas, you know what I'm saying, I feel as though the terminology continues to shift. And people say that, you know, this is one of the problems with using the N-word, because it started off as something degrading. It started off as something which was, you know, starting from the Latin word negro, and going from the word negro to being Negro to a terminology in the South that they just couldn't pronounce because they was just some backwards, hick, redneck, you know, uneducated people themselves. We was able to utilize it and to boost our spirits by way of saying it became a term of endearment. The reason why it changed back is because people started to take the negative aspect of it and use it the wrong way again. The first time when, as far as historically, from me looking at the history of the N-word, when people said the term Negro, for instance, and you know, a lot of our conscious community still say it now, so when somebody calls you a Negro, then they looking at it as you're one of those conformed black men who is going along the system and you don't want no problems. Now, you know, we the most other thing on the airways, so I'm gonna say it. Nigga is the one who the slave master couldn't trust. He's the one who they used to call the black man who they used to call a nigga was the one who, man, if I was to go to sleep around him, he would creep into my bedroom and he would put a nail in my head. Right. Or he would, you know what I'm saying, he would use that machete for chopping that cotton and chop my head off. Or he would do this or he would do that. So you can't trust the nigga. That was the other side. That was the other side that used to see that. And so that was when that nigga title started to be put out there. And so the first time when I started seeing in like the 1960s and the documentaries and even Richard Pryor did it at his comedy at the Palisades in California and a whole bunch of other documentaries, they started to embrace the word nigga. Like, you ever wonder why, like in California, niggas with attitudes, NWA came out, they were embracing that title because they were saying we are those black men who can't be conformed.
Right.
We're those black men who, as black men, we can trust us. Mm-hmm. Who do we trust? Us. We can be able to take care of our neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. But we're not Negroes. So if you want to call us anything, you can call us niggas.
Right.
But coming from the backgrounds that we come from the ghetto. We come from the hood. We come from a gang-banging background, but that gang-banging background was only so we could be able to take care of our neighborhoods and make sure no one could come from outside of that neighborhood to disrespect our neighborhood, which meant that we was really the definition of men who was still following the definition of like the Black Panthers, for instance. Even when we look at why is there so many people started to embrace that culture of black men going to jail, and why we were proud of them, because the majority of black people, especially in the 50s and 60s, were those freedom fighters.
Right.
Even right now, part of DK News.
DK, did you know? So they say.
There's been 28 people who've been killed within Mississippi, right? 15 in Parchman, 28. It's 15 in Parchman, killed in the prisons within Mississippi. Mm-hmm. One of them, 15 people have been killed in Parchman Penitentiary, which is the state prison, and the rest were killed within the county jail level, which was Wilkinson's correctional facility. These riots has been going on, but Parchman has been known in history as being one of the places where along that freedom ride, those freedom riders used to go on a bus and used to go out to all these different places to fight for justice. And for instance, that Parchman jail was one of the places that housed most of them. They will go in there and they will go against the guards. They will go in there and the guards would threaten them and say, if you keep on singing this freedom stuff, we're going to take away your mattress. They start singing about that. You can take our mattress. we're not going to give y'all water. You can take our water.
This is my question though, right? So
hold on, let me finish this thought real quick.
Okay.
And so that honor of going to jail and then them saying there's going to be more of us coming because they're not going to let us be in here alone, and which that took place. So people started to get locked up going there to fight for justice and to fight for those freedom fighters, and were getting locked up to be in there riding as riders, riding with their peoples, with their folk. So they actually started congesting the prisons with freedom fighters.
Yeah, that's how it was in the beginning. And
that's the reason why it became an honor for people at first to go to jail, because you were doing something for your people. You were doing something for freedom, for the whole. That's not that no more.
People that want to call up, because there's a lot of people, it's a lot of people that's like, I don't know. My cousin is on here, and he's going against what you're saying. So if you want to call up, like,
let's see what he said. What he got to say? What he
I don't know, but 267-530-9384. Okay. Call up, cousin. Call up, man. Just call up whenever you get a chance, man. All right, so yeah.
Talking about like the freedom fighters and kind of mentioning what you had, previously said. When I was younger, being, I guess, ignorant and never been to prison, I've always thought if the inmates outnumbered the like COs,
right?
Why didn't y'all just like mob on them?
Well, all right, so
like and get out, like in my head, like no, in my and listen, because and think of, I was a child thinking this, but you bring it up and it's just like y'all are literally letting, and even I say this in terms to enclose like a prison, but this also applies to reality in the world.
Absolutely.
When the majority of people, right, allow for the minority, the inferior minority, to dominate and oppress us when there's power in numbers. So if we were to unite and override and ride on them, then
Overthrow.
No, and I agree with you. And this is, but see, that's the mentality of the mentality of a physical slave and a mental slave is to be afraid of the person that's more intelligent than you. See, it's a lot of us that are very intelligent, but the first thing we go after is the person that's just like each other. So I don't want to go after the person I don't want to go after the white person and, come up with strategies. That's why I love Huey P. so much, because he studied the law. He wasn't aggressive. So when he walked into those courtrooms and he had his guns and he had his soldiers with his guns, it was, we know our rights.
Absolutely.
The law didn't say we couldn't bear arms. The law said
we have the right to bear arms.
We have right to bear
Second
arms, long as it's not with a loaded gun.
Exactly.
If it's not loaded, then we good.
Unless there's a threat.
Unless it's a threat. So the physical slave and the mental slave will take it a different way. The physical slave and the mental slave, their first reaction is to be aggressive towards the people that are just like you. And like I said before, you're not going to. It's just like when we were slaves. Our ancestors were slaves. After you control the mindset of a person, you control everything else. So the question is, why didn't we as slaves go after the slave owner, right?
Absolutely.
But and this is why Harriet Tubman had to kill a couple slaves when she was trying to get free. You mean to tell me you going back to go tell?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you tripping.
And that goes back to the history of Book Mine, where I was mentioning he had to weed out those Judases first.
Oh, cousin, the number is 267. I'm gonna tag it in.
Put it on the bottom of the phone so that they can be able to call in and we can have a conversation and dialogue.
Yeah, but I wanna
I never say. I want to make sure. I always say on the international show that I never say that I'm 100% right, because I always like the dialogue. I always like to make sure that all facts are actual facts. You know what I'm saying? So it's always open for challenge.
No, that's a fact. No, but I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that like everybody understand that this is an interview, and this is not a debate.
But
so we try to keep it on course.
then I remember, right, one of my favorite movies from 1994, 1995 was the movie Black Panthers, right? Mario Van Peebles and his father put together an excellent movie. Salute to them on creating that movie. In that movie, the one thing which was shown and which was portrayed was there was that one man who he was the Judas. I think it was Ezel, in fact, the comedian, right? He played the drug dealer / hustler of the neighborhood who, while everything was arising around him, while the people were becoming conscious, while the people who were part of the Panthers were becoming more militant, and they were organizing the neighborhood, doing so much for the neighborhood, his thing was, I'm still about my dollar.
1 second, it looks like we have a caller.
Aha.
Peace, love. It's NR International. Who we talking to?
Yeah, this is I'm B's cousin.
Hey, cuz.
Make sure you're
What's going on?
What's going on, cuzzo?
What's going on, man? How you?
You already know, man. I'm happy that you chimed in, man.
Yeah. I was listening to my man up there. You know what I'm saying? First of all, what I want to say is that any brothers coming together, having good, positive dialogue on any level is a beautiful thing. We can still disagree because there can be disagreement. Disagreement is healthy. You know what I mean? But as long as brothers are still coming together and at least talking and thinking, that's the most important thing.
Right, absolutely.
Now, so let's get right into it. So when I was hearing the brother talk, I don't know his name. What was his name again?
Brother Rainey.
Brother Rainey.
Brother Rainey. Okay. Yeah, Brother Rainey. When I was hearing you, through your knowledge earlier, you were talking about, maybe like with the origins of the N-word and things like that. With those kind of things, I don't really think that those kind of things can be like actually dated to a certain point in time and say, oh, this is when people started doing this and doing that. But that's neither here nor there. When we're using we have to look at things in this whole totality. To use a word that your oppressor used. Now, let me ask everybody here a question. Everybody's familiar with World War II, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so everybody's familiar with Hitler's rise to power in 1935 to 1947, right? And everybody's familiar with what happened during that time and what group of people were oppressed and subjected by another group of people, particularly Germans and Jewish Germans, right?
Right.
Right. Now, atrocities were committed during that time and everything. You know what I mean? Like I said in the chat, do you see any Jews using anything from the Holocaust or that atrocity as a term of endearment? Do you see any people on this earth using their oppressors' words or actions against them and trying to turn that around and make it into something else? To me, that's kind of like backward thinking. You know what I mean? Because it's like you're going to use it's basically like if you're going to say nigga, you might as well walk around with a noose around your neck all day. You know what I mean? Because it's like we might as well go the whole nine. We can't. If you're going to wash away and you're going to rise above that aspect of your history, you have to wash away all of it. You can't cherry pick, what you want from it and what you don't want from it. You know what I mean?
I agree with you 100%, and that's the reason why I had said specifically.
Wait a minute. I wanted the viewers to know what the question or the statement. So the statement was you don't hear other people, like you said, the Jews from the Holocaust and all that. You don't hear them using. Yeah, you don't hear them using excuse on why we call each other the N-word, or you don't hear the words that they was given to them being used amongst them. Mm-hmm. So why are we doing that amongst us? Mm-hmm. Right?
And I have a theory on that. My theory on that is, well, if you want to continue saying something, I don't want to let the counter back yet.
I'm interested in your theory.
Well, my theory is that, and I have another point after this. Well, my theory is that white people, the black people in America, have a subconscious and somewhat like infatuating love more than love. I would say it's like 70% to 30% love and infatuation with white people in this country. You know what I mean? Like black people they need white people on two levels. They need white people to validate them. Not all black people, but they need white people to validate them, and they need white people to be the boogeyman oppressor, so they can still be victims to be able to underachieve. Because don't get it twisted. Black people in this country, as a whole, I'm talking about as a whole, because not all black people are from the hood. Not all black people live in the hood. Mm-hmm. The hood doesn't represent everybody, every black person in this country. Exactly. But that's the one who's propagated. That's the one who's put to the forefront for the most part. So we're going to talk about that. But they need white people to play the boogeyman oppressor in order for them to be victims, so they can underachieve. So we can say so we can promote, deaf culture. You know what I'm saying? Deaf culture, jail culture, not taking responsibility. That all these things. Pretty much, you need that, because you can't do that without a quote unquote or so-called oppressor. You can't do it, because if you were to do it without that, people would look at you like you're crazy. People look at black people like they're crazy. Like, you live in the greatest nation economically. I'm not talking about from a cultural standpoint. Even culturally, it's still amazing. But from an economic standpoint, you live in the greatest nation, the most economically prosperous nation in the history of this earth. The best schools are here, the best education. I'm talking about even on the low level. People talk about Philadelphia schools. The Philadelphia school is still better than the school in the Republic of the Congo.
I doubt that. I'm going to disagree with you on that.
I feel like what you're saying was true at one point.
I would
So
disagree.
you mean to tell me in the Republic of the Congo, these are war-torn countries that have been colonizers have even left? I'm talking about where people are making $6 a day. You mean to tell me the education would be better over there? Than
Yes.
Education.
This is what people don't even
but the
realize,
economy-
right?
the
Like when
economy
you
is
go
different.
to different, but when you go to different places or different islands, like for instance, right? I have family members in the DR who are like 15 and graduated college, and then come over to America to learn. So you can't necessarily say just because our media and what we know in America about them, because you do realize that during the time of Hitler, it was propaganda that was going on. America didn't know about Nazis in Germany until way after the fact because of the media, the news. Everything was happy-go-lucky, and that's all that we know. So if we are trusting in the same oppressor, quote-unquote, the same people who history has shown and proven who has not had our best interest in heart, but we're believing as gods everything that they say about themselves, about ourselves, and about everyone else, do we really have knowledge? Is that really intelligent? Is that in our best interest for survival of the fittest?
Well, and Logan, I definitely appreciate your comment and your statement and your thoughts, and like you said, man, we have to understand that it's okay to disagree and have a debate.
Absolutely.
That's what makes, and that's what hurts us, because we're very sensitive, man. And the only thing that I say is this: you're right. In order to take over a nation, you have to, whoever you're taking over that nation with, or that whoever you're taking over, your group has to be strong. Meaning, when you look at people that feed us, when you look at people that provide for us, everything that people that giving us our resources, their group is strong. The Asians deal with the Asians. They don't go against that. The Jews deal with the Jews. They don't go against that. So yes, it's like we are like, oh, we have a factuation with other people besides our own. Well, if it took 300 years to do that, it's going to take another 300 years to cure that.
And then in addition, we don't have access to our people or our culture or our ancestry. We were taken, you know?
You do.
Well, tell me this then. Tell me this, Logan. Why a person like LeBron James won't just say, I'm not playing for the NBA. I'm going to build my own courts. In every basketball player, every football player say we're going to do our own stadiums in our own cities and call it something else, and we got our own NBA and basketball. Why we don't have our own hospitals? Why we don't have more of our own banks? You want to know why? Because of what?
LeBron James might get assassinated.
Black people feel that the white man's ice is colder. That's why.
Huh?
What was that?
Because of money.
Black people feel like the white man's ice is colder. Even with, at certain point, I go back to everything. Like let's take a look at look at the I was talking to a friend of mine a couple of days ago about this. Let's go even beyond the Negro Leagues. I mean, blacks did have, black names at a certain point in time, but integration, chat, and all that. Because, like I said, black people feel like the white man's ice is colder. But outside of that,
No. Can I?
hold on. You know what I'm disgusted by? I'm disgusted by, and you guys, some, these, you know how it is. Like back in maybe about 20 years ago. You know what I'm saying? I'm in junior high school, so this is at the height of, and to me, this is at the height of black fashion, right? You got academics, you got FUBU, you got any of these black designers, you know what I'm saying? Even Carl Canal, the 90s, let's say from the mid 90s all the way to the 2000s. But like you see now how we're so hyped, like, and nowadays we're so hyped to gravitate towards somebody starting an independent clothes label or independent business. Like this is something new. But
Logan,
you know what?
we got a new caller.
Listen, y'all stay blessed.
You stay blessed too, and I hit you.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Peace,
All right.
love.
Take care.
Peace, love. Thanks for calling in our international. Who's this?
This is somebody from Instagram. We're watching you.
Okay.
Salute to you.
Where you from? What's your name?
OKC. My name's Demetrius.
Hi, Dimitri.
Okay.
From OKC. How are you?
I'm good.
All right.
We appreciate you calling in.
Thank you
Would
for
you like
calling
to
in
add to the
and
topic?
international.
Yeah.
You guys, I just wanted to talk about Kobe Bryant.
Okay, what about him?
It was a news lady. I forgot her name, but she had called him like a nigger or whatever. And I wanted to speak on that.
Let's touch on that real quick. What's your 2 cents on that?
I think it's really racist, and I don't even think like she got fired. I just think like because she's white, and I think it was a lot of other whites in there, she had just got put in a different, facility.
They replaced her, yeah, and changed her places.
They transferred to another station.
I think that this is something that should be brought to the attention because not only her, but I know a lot of other white public figures who have made that mistake of getting too comfortable and using the N-word. And although they may use it behind closed doors,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, I feel like they feel like they're starting not to understand that line between, well, you guys say it, there's a difference. You feel me? There's a difference.
Yeah, and I know I'm only 17, but I have a pops. I talk to him. Sometimes, and he tells me about like the stuff that happened back then. And he's like 70 years old, so he tells me a lot. And now I know, like it still happens too. Like white people, they'll act like all nice and they'll hold the door for you, or they're at the cash register and they'll give you your change back, and like whenever you buy something they'll do all that stuff, like nice stuff in public.
Give us 1 second, okay? We got another caller.
Hold on,
Sorry.
we gotta slow down.
Yes, ma'am.
We have to slow down with callers because we still want to answer some of the things that was being spoken, and we gotta get back to the interview. We don't want to I apologize for everyone who's calling in, but give us a second because we have to make sure that we get the interview out the way, and then we're gonna have a certain time period for the interview, for the questions.
Yes,
over
you
the
already
phone.
know in our international 6:30 to 8, and it is about 1:45. So
before,
OKC, we definitely appreciate you for calling.
much love to OKC.
Much love to OKC.
Yes, ma'am.
Much love to both states, Kansas City and Missouri.
Right.
Kansas and Missouri, because I've been through both states. There's love out there. Now, the first thing I want to say, we gotta get to cousin's response first. I definitely agree with everything that you mentioned in regards to taking a terminology which is negative and trying to change to something which was something of esteem. Now, the thing is, as we've witnessed throughout the generations now, because we're coming to a whole new generation, anytime once you take something which is wrong and you try to make something positive out of it, it will revert back to its original negativity form. It was meant to be at a certain time period, and I'm not putting any actual facts on the date on which it started in any particular place, because sometimes certain things that happens or transpires in one place may take place at another place within the country around the same time or even before. So there's, in regards to our culture, black culture, this is the month of, to make sure that we do our history and know.
Shout out to our ancestors.
We make sure we can only speak on those things in which, as I mentioned, you can go to the documentaries as well as the comedy shows that's found in video form with, for instance, Richard Pryor and the Palisades and a few other videos that I've mentioned only as resources, so that you can see that terminology of being considered as a nigger was something which comedians, entertainers, and other people started to focus on, to say, well, look, we're fighting the power. going to the public enemy era. You know what I'm saying? Fight the powers that be. But the thing is that after that particular era, some of those original, I would say, negative traits, people started to embrace that opposed from what it was supposed to be turned into. And I might say, and this is a possibility or maybe, but we do know that black people, you know what I'm saying, we are a spiritual race. We are people who take on to spirituality, and being that we've been placed in the wilderness of North America, the religion that was placed upon us was Christianity. Now, what we know from 2,000 years ago, going to the time period of King Agrippa, right? King Agrippa was the first one who used an N-word in a different terminology. The terminology that he used as being a Christian was a Nasara. And that Nasara, that N-word, was actually talking about Jesus of Nazareth, the Nazarite. Started calling everybody the N-word as a derogatory statement because they were Hebrews, because they were children of Israel, because they never had that particular word placed on them in the way he mentioned it. And so his entire kingdom started to call these people who were following the Nazarite Nasara. Until they said, okay, well, if you call us Christians, then we're going to end up saying we are Christian and we're going to take that proudly. So that's just one example from 2,000 years ago of a people who took a term that was meant to be derogatory towards them, and then they took it. Because if we go to the etymology of the word, if you say that we are negro, okay. I'm negro, I'm moro, I'm moreno, I'm all of the above. I have many terminologies to what I am. So if you say negro, okay, cool. What else? But the thing is that once it had a certain stamp on it, that stamp, once in place, it's hard to get out of it. And so people started to turn into that person who you can't trust. But we're not talking about the establishment. We're talking about our people now.
Right.
It became that people who was lazy. It became that people who was not meant for, you had to try to beat work out of them. And all of the other derogatory statements with all the derogatory statements on which was mentioned in regards to what the terminology of the N-word as they said it was supposed to be. We got to take that off of our backs. We have to get back to being kings. We got to get back to being men. We have to get back to being, as you mentioned earlier today, real ones. And knowing what the definition of a real one is. A great father, a loyal friend, a person who is one who follows, who builds entrepreneurship within his community, who builds economy within his community, who's a boss, who's a leader, a person who's able to show the lessons of his life through the hardships in which he's gone through. That's the definition of a real
person who handles their responsibilities without bragging and boasting.
Absolutely.
Do what you're supposed to.
Well, you know what, man? I've been in a lot of relationships, right? And I'm happy we said that, right? And I've never been a leader in none of them. And what I mean by that is this, right? Mm-hmm. No matter how much a female says she loves me, she can never depend on me. And I think we as men, even today, we complain about the wrong things. Like, we're more selfish. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, like the women are the best teachers. They're the first teachers. They're the first teachers. I think they have more patience to a certain degree, right? Mm-hmm. And so how we break this generational curse is if the father is not around, number one, you take time out within yourself to say, okay, before I give myself to this man, let me make sure he's the right one, right? Now let's say you've been fooled. That happens. If you've been fooled, now you got to deal with raising your child or your children on your own. The same teachings that you give your daughter to be independent, you do the same thing for your son. Now, what I've noticed through my observation is a lot of women treat their sons, they spoil them, they make them more dependent,
Yeah.
But like the Willie Lynch letter that you said, this was written in the Willie Lynch letter,
Exactly.
where the roles will be reversed. So now,
And the women end up overprotecting
overprotecting the sons, right?
Mhm.
Now, when I look at it, I did self-observation, and I did observation amongst my community. See, these are the things that you have to take time out to do. You can't just go off of knowledge, right? You have to take time out to say, how does this work, right? I grew up with women. I grew up under women. A woman raised me. So when I see that a woman is like the male, her son is the only male figure that's giving her love and affection. So at this point, she treats her son as if he was the boyfriend, as if he was the husband. Now a lot of women won't see when you don't want to admit, the curse keeps going.
Exactly.
When you don't admit and take accountability of, you don't necessarily say, that's my boyfriend, that's my man, but you treat him as such.
He's the man of the house.
As if he's the man of the house.
Psychologically speaking, that's a reverse electrocomplex. An electrocomplex within the psychoanalytic school of thought of psychology is when a daughter has a crush on her father. Vice versa, the reverse electrocomplex is when a mother has pretty much places that type of responsibility upon her son.
Right. And
that comes with trauma.
And that comes with trauma. Right. So now when you find yourself, okay, like you tell your daughter, cook, clean, watch it, like I said before, even if a 2-year-old, if you think the 2-year-old don't understand you, he or she understands. They can't articulate it, but they understand. Son, I want you to be a one-woman's man. Treat women, and yes, this is what white people do. They talk to their children as if they can talk back. You got to pick up from some of the enemies too. Not saying all white people are enemies, but learn. White people are more daring. They take chances where we're like, yo, I don't want your son or daughter, I don't want you to move to California. Why? Because I can't get to you and I'm afraid something may happen to you.
Now you instilling that fear into the
Now you instilling fear. Not only are you instilling fear, you putting your fears on your child, because something can happen to me in Philadelphia, to be honest with you.
Happening in Philadelphia every
You're
day.
putting fears on your child. You're not teaching your child how to be a good person. On top of, I watched my mother cheat on a man before. See, we don't want to face the harsh reality. How am I supposed to look up? I love my mother to death. I'm not talking down on my mother. This is just the reality of it. How am I supposed to believe in women when I watched my mother cheat before? You understand? So now we got to put all of these things in perspective and say, okay, this is how I'm going to break the curse. I'm going to take time out for me. A lot of women are not going to admit to say, well, you know what? I dealt with that man because I knew that I was lonely. And I already knew that the vibes were bad, but I took a chance anyway. Just like a lot of men are not going to admit the fact that, yeah, well, you only dealt with her because she could take care of you. Let's start being honest, man, and stop taking things. And and the only reason you're going to be competitive is because it hurts. That shit hurts. The truth hurts.
Don't it?
But even when a person goes to, say, for instance, any group of rehabilitation, any group of self-help, the first thing is admitting where you're wrong at.
Acknowledging, accept, and move on.
I had to do that going to rehab.
You can't work or execute or fix a problem if you haven't first identified.
We have to recognize what things is killing us. We have to recognize what things is harming our psyche.
How we're killing ourselves.
But how about this, y'all? It's normal, so I don't recognize it.
That's what I'm saying.
Like I'm talking about. You're on drugs. I'm on drugs. When we come outside, we happy. That's normal. What am I, like, I don't see nothing wrong. Like, you really sitting up here telling me that I'm wrong? Where it's like a person saying, well, you don't see me complaining, so why are you complaining? Well, you know what? Damn, maybe they right. Like, damn, it's okay to be living on top of each other in a house, a 3-bedroom house, and it's 3 generations in there. That's normal.
That's normal.
It's okay to take Percocets and be high and beg for $20. That's normal. You want to know why? Because we all beg on the block. Let me get sugar. Let me get bread. Let me get some milk.
But you know what, though? That's one of the reasons why, though, especially for, and, you know, it's not even for this particular month. This is for every day. We're supposed to look at where we came from as a people.
Right.
We're supposed to look back at when times was better, when times was different, so that we can understand, like, the things that's taking place now. Some things may have always been.
Right.
Other things haven't been. Like, some things, when it comes down to the normality of everyone being in one tight space, that part, that's tribalism. We're okay with that, because as long as everyone is playing their part, as long as everyone is contributing to their house,
That's culture.
and that's part of our culture.
That's culture.
As long as we're adding on to the plate, everyone knows their job. Everyone is, if Aunt such and such is living with us,
right,
then she's putting in and
the
contributing
pot.
to the
Exactly.
kitchen.
Right, but she cooking and then
Uncle
right.
such and such is with us. He's
a
paying the
village.
water
You
bill
feel me?
and electric. You know what I'm saying?
So let
If
me
we're-
go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
if when it comes down to grandma needs us, because grandma don't want to go into an old folks home, and we don't want, because I've seen that too many times, where as soon as grandma goes in or great aunt goes into one of those homes, they start to lose a little bit, and they start to slowly but surely become eccentric, and they start to move themselves from the reality of
Plus-
society and family until they no longer here anymore.
We don't know what they putting in that water.
We don't know what they're giving them. We don't know how they're treating them. We've seen that one too many times. So it's like those things that's already part of our culture. We embrace that and we reinforce it. But we have to recognize what was those core principles that we always had, and know what parts was tossed in by quote unquote the enemy.
So my question is this, though, right? See, and so when I mention to people that you have different motivators out here, right? You have motivators that motivate the rich, right? So it's like coming down here. I'm not even trying to come to you. I'm going to get to the rich and figure them out, right? You have motivators that motivate athletes and college kids, right? The part that I'm willing to face is, how can I motivate the child that don't believe in a religion, don't believe in God at all, right? Because God is not saving them. Don't have any hope, because every day they wake up, it's no hope. How can we change the mindset of that child that says, you know what, I'm not trying to hear it, I'm going to die anyway, ain't no, believe in yourself. That's a cliche that I'm done with believing in myself.
Check.
I might have an answer.
Ladies, go first. I'm gonna let you mention that first, and then I'm gonna say from a kid who was that.
I would say listen. Listen and learn. You know, children, they might not say it, and adults too, because a lot of adults are just grown children. Attention. You know, they are trying to figure things out. And they constantly have adults saying, well, you don't got it all figured out, or you need to have it figured out by this time. And listen, give them attention and genuinely care. A lot of these children are coming from homes who they don't even have someone to talk to. You feel me? Everybody's so worried about ripping and running, and they're out for self and self-satisfaction, that sometimes they may need help processing. Period. They might need a shoulder. They might need to know that when they feel messed up or crazy or lonely, that they have someone to talk to. And that alone allows for seeds to be planted. that alone allows for a child to go from, oh, I know it all, to, let me think and ponder. You know, and this is when they start playing chess instead of checkers.
Well,
Go ahead, yeah.
And I'm gonna say my 2 cents before we begin to close out. When it comes down to the greatness of the universe, the greatness of God, when it comes down to how many different prototypes, archetypes, and groups of people that have been created, everyone falls into categories. There are people who came from rich backgrounds. There's those who came from poor backgrounds. There's those who came from harsh backgrounds. There's those who came from peaceful backgrounds. The beautiful thing is that if there's one person going through something, then there's thousands, if not millions, of people going through that same situation. Everything isn't for everyone coming from just one individual. But there is one who can affect millions based off of just saying his story and his lessons. So I say, for a person who's already gone through it, if you're able to figure it out yourself, it starts with self first. If you're able to get yourself together, if you're that child who felt like, how can I believe in God when God got all this stuff going on around me? I lost this person, I lost that person. I've gone to school with, starting from middle school, with about 7 people who committed suicide. That I've watched people get shot and had to drug people into the school after situations took place. Half of the people that's on these murals and walls, I knew them. I had cousins who were shot up in houses, so-called, as they say in the newspaper, massacres. Going through issues of having family wars going on where you have to leave from one house and live at another cousin's house and live at an aunt's house and live at another cousin's house until you finally got a place for you and your mother to rush your head and thinking that all we got is us. Trusting nobody. Doing whatever you had to do to be able to make sure that you can put food on your table and try to help your mom out while in the process. People who come from that type of mentality and that type of thought knows that while I'm here, the only way that I can be able to get out is doing what I'm able to do right now and learning along the way. And even though I might not take heed to everybody, because I'm looking at everybody like they don't know what I'm going through. They not living the way I'm living. But knowing that some things eventually plants like a seed, and you may hear something from one old head that you do have respect for. May come from one person or one situation that now, as time goes on, you start to put it all together. And sometimes it does take for you to have to sit down for a while for it to finally mesh and for you to figure it out. Sometimes that happens while you're in jail. And if you do, and if a person figures out before that, that's a blessing. But if a person figures it out while he's in jail, when he comes home, the first thing he has to do now is to resurrect himself. Do all the things in which he wasn't either conscious of before and didn't do it. Make himself whole, solid, sound. Make himself, instead of that hustler, that entrepreneur who has a legit business now. Instead of being that person who was taken from the community, be that person who now is able to give to the community. Be that person who now is, you're now producing within your community, opposed from just being a product of your environment.
Right.
Now you're able to talk to a kid who's been through the same thing, and opposed from having to say too much or talk to him, the thing now that you're doing is just saying, this right here, I've been there, I've done that. This is my history. This is my time. And this is, even though you see all of this is going on my Instagram, or my social media, or other things in which I show the world, I was you. That gives people inspiration. That makes people trust that makes people say, man, if he did it, because you know we come from black culture, so it's like we gonna end up saying, man, if he did it, man, look, I can do it. You know what I'm saying? Because he ain't, man, look, I know I'm thorough to him more.
Right. The competitive.
That's competitiveness, but that's natural, especially when you're younger. You're supposed to be competitive.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Real quick though, before we go, because it is definitely like 8:06, and we're supposed to be over at 8.
Salute to all those who went past the 8 o'clock mark with us.
We did. Did you want to finish that up before because I got a couple questions for our guests. I want to know some things.
Well, I would just say, make sure that you're not, as we said earlier, ashamed of your story. Because your story was given to you by God for a reason. And if you're able to give that story to help the next man, the smart man learns off his own mistakes, but the wise man learns off the mistakes of others. Other people can't learn off yours unless you tell it.
Big facts. So a couple quick questions, right? Any words of advice for the men and young men who are transitioning from being into the penitentiary to coming back home? Listen, I'm sorry, Kylie. Y'all gotta wait, okay? In our international, it's 8 something. You gotta call us back. I'm sorry. Let me get these couple questions in real quick. Sorry, but yeah, for those young men who's trying to transition and trying not to go back to prison, but they may find themselves either being a repeat offender or can't quite seem to get on their feet. Do you have words of wisdom or maybe somewhere to steer them, an avenue to steer them in to keep them home?
Well, when I was in rehab, when I was in jail, I created a plan for myself. So the plan was to never go back to both of them. Right? And so far, so good. Alhamdulillah. If you don't have a plan, then a good chance you're going to fail.
No
right?
plan to fail.
You have to remove yourself from people, places, and things.
Triggers.
You, and that goes for everything. Number 2, you have to swallow your pride. It's things out here, I'd rather you laugh at me because I'm working at McDonald's than to laugh at me that I'm begging $20 to go see my child or take my child to go to McDonald's and give him something to eat. Put yourself in perspectives and just say, yo, listen, man, it's things out here for people to do, man. It's jobs out here that are accepting felons. The problem is you haven't accepted yourself yet. That's the issue.
That's deep.
And maybe too much ego.
Yeah.
Maybe too much ego. Sometimes you have to humble yourself.
I feel like people got a sense of entitlement. Like I don't understand where it came from. They feel so entitled.
You got to start from somewhere. If you truly understand what a soldier is, and you really understand what getting it from the mud is, that means that if you know it's legal and you know it's not going to put you into another predicament, then if you got to be a trash man, then wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, do that trash run. You know what I'm saying? And get paid until, you know what I'm saying, you find another source of career if you don't mind getting that city check.
The same patience you put in for nothing, you put that same patience in for something. So we sat around and we did nothing all day. You got to put your work in. Take all day and put it. You know what I'm saying? Everyone says they soldiers, but when it comes down to one thing I've learned to respect, that man who gets up for a 9 to 5, early in the mornings, goes home late, does what he has to do, that's a soldier. Yeah. Being constant, being consistent, being on a schedule. You know, sometimes a lot of us, we're not used to that schedule life. You know what I'm saying? We don't like being institutionalized. Right. But it takes for you to tackle yourself to say, look, I know I have to. So if I have to, I'm going to do it for the sake of myself and my family. That's what people have to keep put into priority. Right. They have to understand you're not only doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your family. And if you don't have a family, then you have to recognize, if I was to have a history
somebody was to place a history on me and say, this is who your father was, what kind of man do you want to be told to your child when you finally do have one, if you don't have one yet?
Absolutely.
Legacy. Build your legacy. Be honorable.
So I got a couple more questions, and I'm sorry because I know we are so past. But I do want to congratulate you on your sobriety.
Thank you.
I
Absolutely.
think that is a huge deal.
Taking the
Thank
bull
you.
by the horns.
Yes. And on this topic, I would like to know if you have any words for those who have been through the same struggle, for those who are still struggling, and for those who may not have come to a point where you are and they're so open about it, for maybe those who are in a closet and still dealing with it. You know, for
Yeah.
those who hear your voice, allow for them to benefit from your experience.
Well, a lot of the Percocet addiction is an epidemic, right? And it's like the crack epidemic. And I say this, right? A lot of us started taking Percocets based off of an injury. And if you're suffering from this disease of addiction, number one, the disease of addiction don't care about your age. They don't care about your sorrow, your pain, your upbringing. The
Your
only
race.
thing, the race, color, it doesn't care about none of those things. When I hear a lot of people say, well, I don't want to go to rehab because I got people depending on me. How? How are they depending on you?
And you're not dependent on you.
And you're not dependent on yourself. Now, you got some people that are a little cocky because they're functional addicts.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're able, or they make so much money that, you know, they don't believe that they're addict. Well, this is the worst thing that could possibly happen. Your insides are dying. Lung disease, kidney disease, constipation. Let me tell you something. I was so constipated from taking Percocets one time. Like, you ever had to pull that out your anus? Like, I'm very transparent about this.
Right.
And I'm sorry if I'm turning people's heads off and all of that, but that's what it did to me. I abused drugs so much that I didn't care about my personal being. I didn't take showers. You know, I didn't care about my children. I did whatever it took to get this drug besides doing anything with another man. I had to stop looking at myself like I'm better than the next person because that person is sleeping under a garbage can and I got a place to stay, but we're no different, right? So I need you to understand that. Take accountability of who you are. You are a drug addict. You are an addict, and you can become a recovering addict if you go get the help, because it gets worse. No matter how much money you got, no matter what position you in, it gets worse. Don't be afraid or ashamed of your story. Be ashamed if it's no ending to your story, because 1 year turns into 5 years. 5 years turn into 15 years. I seen guys that were like 63, 73, 83 still in rehab, and they've been in there 5, 10, 15 times. And you're not going to stop. Can't nobody beat you up. Can't nobody damn near kill you. Can't nobody disown you. None of that is going to work until it's in your heart to stop. And the last thing is, I wanted to commit suicide. Every day that I woke up, I said to myself, damn, I woke up, let me do it again. It's a passive-aggressive way of committing suicide because we don't want to face the harsh reality. And when I finally got clean, those 30 days, I said, yo, I'm a deadbeat father. I ain't got nothing. I use women. I gotta face it.
Suicide is a very, very serious epidemic as well. And if you are struggling with any suicide issues, make sure that you are talking to someone and you get help. Make sure that you go to inpatient. There are several alternatives than trying to take your own life. Understand that life is a struggle. We all go through things, but unifying and coming together can definitely bring us together, make us stronger, and heal us slowly. but time is everything.
Absolutely. On that note, we're gonna come up. We're gonna bring our people back up from this mental death, from this spiritual death, and we're gonna raise them up like Black Jesus.
Oh, actually.
So before we do,
we got the sub for him. I'm sorry, we gonna end it out. Yeah.
No, let's do
his favorite one. It's about the guest. I'm sorry.
Oh, we wanted to do something about.
Yeah, well, shout out to Tone Trump.
Shout out.
Listen, the only Trump we respect out here is Tone Trump.
The only one.
You know, so at this point, man, I want to give a shout out to West Philly, Big West Side, man.
Muslim Don
family. Supper, man. That's one of my songs I wanted to hear, man.
So that's the song that we gonna enjoy.
So we're gonna do something. We're gonna deal with patience, and we're gonna end it out with the quote. This is a quote coming from Socrates, who said, "True wealth is measured by what money cannot buy,
right,
and what death cannot take away."
Absolutely.
So
drop the mic.
Have patience while we here. Lady C.
Peace, love.
Tone Trump. Patience. Have something, y'all.
West Side. Big West Side. Philistine. Hey, Bay, turn me up. Brook 9. Tone Trump. I'm Anderson, Kuwait. Shout to the whole Equine. Oh, I ain't hating, you ain't winning. African people. Free Imam Jamal in Canada. Look. Hit the water, hit the rug, it's a lot time. Muslim chant like rock mine. Red gloves and a Glock 9. Silk shirts like I'm Don Juan. Park the Benz by the stop sign. Louboutins like